Yep. So the last class where we stopped, the last class we discussed about how how to create one simple class component, right? How to create a class component, how to render that component. Okay, if you want to create a class component, syntactically it's a kind of class keyword class only in JavaScript. So how we can class name. Okay, if you write up to here only, my hello contains only one member render, but my class hello should act like a component so that it should get some extra features from outside. Okay, so that features and everything React people written in another class, that class name is like what? Component is the class. So my hello should extends from where? Extends from where? My component class or not? Can anyone tell me in my component class how many variables and how many methods are there? Okay, total 7 members are there. One is like refs, props, updater. The next one is like context, is React component, set state, force update. These many members are there in the React.component class. Those members are inherited into my hello. So my hello contains what? My React component class members as well as my hello own members or not. Now, some extra benefits, extra features get from component class. Now onwards, if you want to use this hello as a component, yes, you can use it. It can act like a component. Okay, my component main purpose is what? To prepare some content. So where you want me to prepare the content in if it is a class, okay, to prepare the content, it is a functionality. If it is a functionality, okay, how we can handle? By using one function, one method you can. Okay, you can create one method. Okay, what is the functionality? Prepare some content and return that content. That is my functionality. So I prepared and returned. Now will it work or not work? Will it work or not work? It is not work. Why? Why? Because my React people take the responsibility of create an object for your component. With that object, already they called which method? Already they called which method? Render method. They written the code already. Okay. They written the code already to call the render method on your component object. So my hello is a component. They create an object for this particular hello and they called which method? Render method already they called. If they called render method, then the time render method is there or not there? Not there. Then that time it gives me one error. What is that? Instance.render is not a function. So that make sure if you create a class component, okay, you should define which method. You should define which method? Render method to prepare the content or not. Why? Because the render method already called by React people. You are not the person to change the React code. So you need to follow their guidelines or not. Got my point? Agree with me? Okay. Okay, then can we convert? Okay, can we convert remaining all? Can we convert remaining all? Let's start. Okay, the first one is done. The name 5. Okay, can we convert this one into class component now? Okay, name 5 underscore c.html. Okay, just you can use it. Okay, which lines you want me to do the change? Which lines of code you want me to do the change? Go on. Where you want me to do the change? Where you want me to do the change? Yeah, this particular component you need to do the change or not. Okay, let's start. Convert this component into class component. Let's start. Class is a keyword, component name is like name. Okay, it should get the properties from which class? From which class? Component class or not? React.component. React.component. Which method you should have to define? Which method you should have to define? Okay, render method or not? Why? Why means render method already called by React people to get the content. So you should have to define. So render method should return some content or not? Should return some content. So done. Yes. Okay. If I run this one, will it work or not work? If I run this one, will it work or not work? Will it gives you the proper output or not? It is a class component and it is a functional component. It is a functional component. Okay, now my class component rendered inside the functional component or not. Okay, can we run it? Can we run it? Now say this, it is working or not? It is working or not? Okay, very simple logic. See, either it is a class component or functional component, the way of using will change or not change. The way of using, the way of rendering will change or not change. Either it is a class component or functional component, the way of using, way of loading will change or not change. Not change, right? Not change, right? See, if it is a class component or a functional component, okay, always load, it's like an element format with capital letter only or not. It is always in the element format with capital letter only or not. Always it's like in the element format with the capital letter only or not. The way of using the component never change. Never change. Agreed with me? Okay, if it is not changed, then that is no problem, right? Okay, simple. Okay, from which line my execution is going to start? Can you see the execution flow? From which line my execution is going to start? Not loading, execution I'm asking. From which line my execution is going to start? Okay, first line number 19, it calls my create root. It calls my create root method. That means executing the create root method and get the container reference. In the container, it's trying to render this. What is this one? Element with capital letter. Element with capital letter means it's a component. Whenever it is recognized like a component, first it is going to check, is there any component declared with the app? There or not there? Is there any component declared with the app? There or not there? Yes, there. After that, it is going to, once it is recognized like a component, once you find a component, that is which type of component? Now it's check. Which type of component? It is a functional component. If it is a functional component, how we can get this content? By calling. So it is simply call my app. Once you call this one, it comes to this render part. Okay, the return part, sorry. In this return, if you observe here, do, it's a HTML. But once again, if you come here, it is like what? Element with capital letter. Again, it is what? Again, it is what? Again, it is what? It is a component. Which type of component? First of all, find that component. Yes. What is the type of this component? What is the type of this component? Class. If it is a class component, what my React is going to do? It create an object for this particular class and calls which method to get the content? Calls which method to get the content? Calls my render method to get the content. Once it is called my render method, this content placed here or not? Now see, tell me. Okay, is there any issue with this code? No, right? The way of loading the component never change. It is a class component or functional component that is not affected in this particular section or not. Yes or no? So I can render one class component into functional component. I can render a functional component into class component. The way of loading the components never change. Got my point? Got my point? Okay, that may be one component or multiple components, whatever it is. Okay, now can I change this one? Can I change this one? How we can? Class app, which is extends from which class? Extends from which class? Okay, component class or not? Define which method? Render. My render should returns what? My render method should returns your content. This is my content. Is it okay? Is it okay? Shall we move to the next one? Can I go with the box? Can we go with the box? Okay, let's start. Yes. Okay. Now tell me, which lines of code you want me to do the change? Which lines of code you want me to do the change? Okay, these lines and these lines. Okay, let me do. Okay, line number 24. Can we convert into class component? How? Class app which is extends from. Okay, React dot component. Component is the class. Component is the class. Okay, define which method? Should define render method. If the render method is not there, instance dot render is not a function. Okay, you get the error like that. Now my render method should returns what? This content. This content. Okay. Now my functional component rendered inside the class component or not? Works or not? My functional component rendered inside the class component or not? Okay, it is working. It is working. Now, can anyone explain me? Now, can anyone explain me? Line number 36. Yes, get the container. Inside the container, trying to render. Yeah. Okay, element with capital letter. Yes, it is a component. There or not there? Yes, there. Which type of component? Class component. So, create an object. By whom? Created an object by whom? React. Call which method? Render. By whom? React people. So once we have the render method, whatever the content is there, that content is going to render or not. In my content, okay, div HTML element. Next, div HTML element. Box, is it like a user defined element or HTML element? Element with capital letter. It is what now? It is a component. So looking for which component? Looking for which component? Box component. Which kind of component this is? Which kind of component this is? Functional component. So it calls, if it is a functional component, it calls that component or not? Calls that function or not? If it calls that function, okay, now tell me. Line number 27, if you observe, while calling, we are passing some data also or not? See this. Yes or no? Come on. At the time of loading, I pass some data. This data go to my box component or not? So if it is a function, how one function gets some data from outside? How one function get the data from outside? How one function get the data from outside? As a parameter or not? Now the parameter is like holding which kind of data? Attributes data. Attribute is nothing but what? Key value pair. So my parameter holds a key value pair. In JavaScript, how we can represent the key value pair? As a object. So my key is like a number and my value is like 1 or not. How we can get this one? How we can get this one? A dot number or not? Okay. Now this A can be any name or not? This A can be any name or not? Give some proper name like an object. Okay, object dot number. But terminology wise, we are going to use like props. Okay, we'll see later. Okay, 1 second. Agree with me? All are okay. Okay, okay then. Can we convert? Okay, now see, it is working as expected. It is working as expected. Now the next thing is like, can we convert? Can we convert our box component into class component? Shall we? Come on. Now class box, which is extends from React dot component. Define render method. Now returns this content. Yes. If I run this one, exactly which error you can get it? Exactly which error you can get it? Exactly which error you can get it? Exactly what is that error? Come on. Error. You are using OBJ. Is my OBJ defined somewhere? Is my OBJ defined? OBJ is not defined or not? OBJ is not defined or not? So if my OBJ is not defined, okay, you have to define somewhere, right? So where you want me to define? Where you want me to define? Where you want me to define? Here constructor is not there. Constructor is not there. Constructor is not there. inside the render method. How you want me to define inside the render, like this. Okay, no problem, I can follow your guidelines. Now it gives me something like this. Okay, now you should have to tell me what exactly the issue by seeing this particular error message. Okay. Hmm. With this error message, okay, you have to tell something. Come on. Read this error message. Tell me the issue. What is the issue? Cannot read the properties of undefined. Reading no number. What is that? What it means? Can you reproduce the same error message here? Can you reproduce the same error message like this? Can you reproduce the same error message? Can you reproduce the same error message? Okay, I want to reproduce the same error message. How? Where obj, simple. Obj dot number. Same error, right? Same error or not? Yes or no? What it means? What it means? You are trying to read number on which value? You are trying to read number on which value? Obj. Obj is like what? Obj is what? What is the value of obj? It is undefined or not? It is undefined or not? So you are trying to read a property number on undefined or not? Yes or no? So can you come to your code? You are trying to read number on what? On obj. Obj value is like what? Undefined or not? So my obj undefined means this particular obj, they passed some data, not passed. They passed some data, not passed. Come on, they passed or not? They passed or not? They passed or not? They're not passed, right? Okay, very simple. Who called the render method? Come on, who called this render method? You are React people. Come on, React people. Okay, how they called? Where instance equals to new box, instance dot render. Now this guy passed some data or not passed while calling. While calling the render method, he passed the data or not passed? Not passed, right? If you not pass anything, what is my default value for my obj? What is my default value for my obj? Undefined. On undefined, you are calling number. That the reason you get the error is like what? Cannot read property of undefined. Reading no or not, number or not. Got my point? Can you tell me one statement about the render method? Render method called by React by passing how many arguments? Render method called by React by passing how many arguments? 0 arguments or not? 0 arguments. He not passed any arguments. Still you are holding. There is no use, right? Still you are passing, you are holding. There is no use, right? Yes or no? Agreed with me? My render method called by React. Okay, if they called with some value like this, what is my value of obj? 10. Obj value is what? 10. But my obj value is like undefined, means my React people pass some data, not passed. If it is like undefined means, what it means? Okay, if my obj value is like undefined means he not pass anything or not. So that only, right? It's take the default value. So my React people called my render method by passing no arguments or not. Okay, so can I remove this one? Yes or no? Still you required. Okay, the numbers here or not? Yes, come on. Still you required the numbers or not? Okay, then. For now, just let's hard code this value 1. Let's hard code this value 1. Okay. Now tell me, this particular box contains how many members? First question. Box contains how many members? How many members? 7 plus. Box contains how many members? 7 plus render 1. 8 members. Constructor leave it. 8 members or not. Total how many members? 8 members. At the time of creating an object for this particular box, okay, whatever the variables, my constructor is going to execute, whatever the variables are there, those variables will get what? Will get initialized or not. And performing, okay, allocate some memory and perform initialization or not. That is the constructor will take care. Okay, now tell me, for my box, first of all, my question is, object created or not? I want to check. For my box, object created or not? I want to check. Who create an object? Who create an object for my box? Who create? React. If I create like this, then the time I can confirm like, hey, I created an object. See my code like this. See my code like this. But you are not the person. React people created. Okay. Now I want a proof. Oh, React people created, right? Okay, how I can believe that? Show me that he created an object like that. Show me. Tell me. In a class, if you create an object, one method will execute or not. What is that method name? In JavaScript class, okay, whenever you create an object, one method will execute. What is that method name? Constructor is the method or not. So if my constructor called means, can I say my object gets created? Yes or no? Okay, come on. If this constructor you not written, okay, which constructor is going to execute of my box? Which constructor is going to execute? Which constructor? Default constructor. My default constructor is going to call my superclass constructor or not? Yes or no? Yes or no? Come on. Remember that lost classes. My default constructor is going to call, okay, my default constructor is going to call if you have any superclass, that superclass constructor is going to call by default constructor or not. If you write the constructor here, which constructor? Your constructor, default constructor will execute. Which constructor is going to execute? Your constructor. If your constructor executed, then that time, my default constructor is not execute, right? Default. Okay, here my default constructor is not execute. So your responsibility is what? Your responsibility is what? Your responsibility is what? Come on. Your responsibility is what? You should have to call your superclass constructor or not. Yes or no? Am I called here? No, right? No, right? Okay, you should have to call your superclass constructor, otherwise it gives an error or not. See this? This has not been initialized, super has not been called like that. You can get an error or not. So if it is a default constructor, my default constructor is going to call my superclass constructor. If you write your own constructor, you are the responsible person to call your superclass constructor or not by using super method. Yes or no? Whenever I call the superclass constructor by using super, in my react.component, how many variables are there? Those variables, okay, allocate the memory and perform initialization or not. How many variables are there in my react.component class? How many variables are there in my React component class? Variables. This dot props is one variable. This dot refs is one variable. This dot context is one variable. This dot updater is one variable. This dot is React component is one variable. Set state, force update are like functions or not, or methods or not. Yes or no? 5 variables are there. 2 methods are there. Total 7 members. Among 7 members, 5 are variables, 2 are like methods. Yes or no? Agreed with me? Okay, so now can I refresh my page? If I refresh my page, okay, it gives me some error. Okay, may not saved. Can I save that program first? Okay, now I saved. Can I refresh the page? Now see this, my constructor executed or not? How many times executed? Come on, how many times executed? How many times executed? 4 times executed. That means how many objects created? First time, okay, one object. Okay, another time, another object, another object, another object. Yes or no? That means 4 objects get created and then they destruct. Okay, why? Because everything managed properly by my React people. Okay, don't worry about that one. But for every component, if it is like a class component, one object gets created or not. This is only the proof, right? Yes or no? Come on. Okay. So object created by React people. If you want to use the object inside the class, how we can use that object? How we can represent the object inside the class? Outside the class, okay, React people already created that name is like instance. But inside the class, how we can use the object? Inside the class, how we can use the object? Hey, inside the class, how we can represent the object? Yeah, this right, this right. Come on, this right. So can I write, okay, console.log of render here? Say this. Now, if I click on, okay, and if I refresh the page, see, my first constructor executed and called which method? With that object called which method? Render method. Constructor executed, call which method? Render. Constructor executed, call render method. Constructor executed, call which method? Render method or not? Yes or no? How many objects get created? Come on. How many objects gets created? Okay, 4 objects gets created or not? 4 objects, can you print it? Each and every object contains what? Each and every object contains what? Object is a blueprint of your class. My class, how many members are there? Those are represents with object or not? Those are represents by using an object or not? Yes or no? Yes or no? Can I go with this? Can I refresh the page? Now read it. See, first box, okay, first box construct executed is nothing but for my first box object created. Called which method? Render method. First box class object is this one, right? Okay, box object. Observe here. There has all your variables there are not there. Come on. I have a context is there, I have a props is there, refs are there, state is there, updater, in between some others also added. But my required variables there or not there. Methods you can see in the prototype. Inside that one of the variable, if you observe your number one, what is this number one? For my first box, I passed my number one data or not? Yes or no? Come on. For my first box, whatever I passed the data, that data hold with one of the variable. Okay, what is my variable name? Come on, the variable name is what? Props variable. The name itself props or not, which is inherited from where to where? From my react.component class to my class or not, my hello class component or not. That is my first box. Second box constructor executed. Okay, render method called. In my second box, what value you passed? Come on. For my third box, which value you passed? For my fourth box, which value you passed? Yes or no? Now, my question is very simple. Can anyone, there has multiple variables are there. One is like context, props, refs, updater, is React component, like this multiple, okay, multiple variables are there. Okay, can you talk about this props variable? My props variable holds the data which is coming from outside to my component or not. Can I define like that? Come on, my props is a variable, it holds the data. Okay, my props is a variable which holds the data which is coming from outside to my box component or not. Yes or no? Come on. Okay, my props is a variable. It holds the data which is coming from outside to my class component or not, which is coming from outside. Now see this number one data, which is coming from outside to which component? Outside is nothing but it is coming from app component to which component? My box component or not. My props is a variable which holds the data which is coming from outside to my class component or not. Now my this is pointing to this object. Can you get this too? How we can get it? 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 Come on, how we can get it this too? This dot props also there, na? This dot props dot number or not? Yes or no? This dot props is nothing but this object. Okay, two I want. That means what? This dot props dot number or not. So if you want that number, can I remove this one? Can I put like this dot props dot number? Now this is a JavaScript variable, JavaScript object. So you should have to enclose it with what? An expression or not. Now can I refresh the page? Yeah, it is working or not? Got my point? Hmm? Yes or no? Shall we move to the next one? Shall we move to the next one? Rename player underscore C. Okay, let's start. Can we create this one? Class app, which is extends from where? React dot component. Should define render method. Okay, my render method should returns this content or not. At this moment, any change is required? Not required. Why? Because my data go to functional component. My functional component, we already handle the data which is coming from outside or not. Okay. Now, can I write my class player, which is extends from React dot component. Okay, define render method. Okay, that render method should returns this content. Okay. Now can I delete this? Can I delete this? Yes or no? Come on. What change you want me to do? The data which is coming from outside to my class component, how we can represent the data? How we can represent the data? So can I print my console.log of render method called console.log of this? Okay, can I write the constructor? If you write the constructor, you are the responsible person to call the superclass constructor or not. Yes or no? Come on. Inspect it. Inspect it. For now, okay, this obj you can remove it, and this one also you can remove it for now. Okay. Now can I refresh the page? Yes. Can I go to the console? Yes. So how many objects gets created? 3 objects. Constructor, render, and my player. If you observe the props, see this, the data which is coming from outside to my component, we hold by using which variable? Props variable or not. How many key value pairs? How many attributes you passed while loading? 2 attributes. So that my name and location. So how we can get the Sachin? How we can get the Sachin? This dot props dot name. Yes or no? Same like that here also. Same like this here also. Okay, so can you come here? My name is, if you want to call any variable, if you want to access any class variable, okay, props is a class variable. Yes or no? Come on, props is a variable which is coming from component to my player or not? Yes. If you want to access any class variable, what is required? How we can access it? By using object. Okay, how we can represent the object inside the class? How we can represent the object inside the class? By using, how we can represent the object inside the class? By using this, right? By using this dot props dot. Okay, this dot props is which type? Key value pairs, it's holding. Which type? It is an object type. How we can take the data from the object? By using dot notation. So can I write like the name? Okay, here only dot notation, only dot notation. By using square bracket notation also, I can access the data or not. Okay. Yes or no? Can I go to the next one? Okay, can I go to the next one? This is which class? Okay, okay, let's start. My class app, which is extends from React dot component. Should define render method. Should returns this content. If I run this one, any changes required? At this moment, any changes required? The data go to which component? Functional component. Functional component, you already handled that. So this dot, okay, open with live server. Okay, there is no problem with this. It's working as expected. No issues. Can we convert this one into class? How we can? Class player. It should extends from where? Extends from React dot component. Should define which method? Render method. Render method. Should returns what? Should returns what? Should returns this content or not? Should returns this content or not? Can I demo this? Yes, come on. Okay, for now, just remove it. For now, just delete it. Constructor. Super. Console.log of constructor. Okay, what is my render method? Console.log of render. Okay, console.log of this. Yes. How many ways we can pass the data while loading the component? How many ways we can pass the data while loading the component? How many ways we can pass the data while loading the component? Two ways. What are those? As an attribute format, we can pass it. As a children also, you can pass it or not. While loading, how many ways we can pass it? Two ways or not? Okay. Now, can we run this? Can we run this? Can we run this? Inspect it. Can you go to the console? Can you go to the console? Now see my player object. If I open the player object, now see this name Sachin is okay. Location Mumbai is okay. My 20,000 they hold with what? Come on, hold with which key? The 20,000 hold with which key? Children key or not? Did you mention anywhere? Did you mention anywhere the children? Okay, no, right? Okay, here the key is like name. Here the key is like location. But the child that whatever you pass, that is hold with which key? The children key or not? Yes or no? All are okay. All are okay. Agreed with me? Okay, then. Now, how we can retrieve the data? This dot props dot name. This dot props dot name. This dot props dot name. Okay, next. Here. This dot props dot what? Location. Okay, next. Here, my runs are this dot props dot children or not. Now, if I refresh the page, it is working as expected or not. But if you observe the code here, how many times you are accessing this 3 times? How many times you are accessing the props? This dot props. Do you want me to find every time this and props? Is it the recommended way? No, right? Can we destructuring the properties from this dot props only one time by using object destructuring? So how we can? From my this dot props. Okay, this dot props is which type? Is an object type. While retrieving, do you want me to allow anyone to do the change? It is a retrieving operation. I don't want to allow. So can I make it like constant? Which properties you want from there? I want name, I want location, I want children. Okay. Now, can I remove all this stuff? Can I remove this stuff? Can I remove this stuff? Yes, sir. Now, can I refresh the page? Yes. Working. This is called as object destructuring. Object destructuring. Okay. The next one is like players table. Okay. And this one also you want that. It's a simple thing. Can I rename it? What is this? Okay. Now here, can I create the component? Here itself, we can create the component. Class app, which is extends from React dot component, open brace and closing brace here. Yes. Okay. Now define the render method. Can I define the render method like this? Render method. Render method. Can I define like this? Done. My render method should return what? This content or not. Agreed. This container you want me to allow to do the change. Container I don't want. Then why I need like a where? Make it like constant. Make it like constant. Follow the guidelines. But it's working or not. All are okay. Agreed. Props is a variable which is coming from React.component class to my class. Okay, prop is a variable which is inherited from React.component class into my class. By using that props variable, we can hold the data which is coming from outside. That's it. Props is a predefined variable which is coming from React.component to which class? React.component class to which class? My app class or not? Yes or no? By using props variable, okay, we can hold the data which is coming from outside or not, which is coming from outside to my class component. Okay, now go to my functional. Okay, terminology wise, instead of a, the data which is coming from outside to my component, can I say terminology wise like a props? Any problem to you? Any name you can give it, but now onwards, can I use like a props? Come on. Okay, in my functional component. Okay, go to my hello.html. Nothing is there. Go to my players.html. Instead of object, yes, it is an object only. Can I give like a proper name like a props? Can I give like a proper name like a props? Yes or no? If it is like any name, instead of a, instead of obj, can I give like a object name is like props? Okay, here also, can I get like a props? Any name, no problem at all. Okay, can I get it? Yes. All are okay. Anyone have any questions so far? Are able to understand? Now you got some idea, right? How my class component is looks like, how my functional component is looks like, why we go for components, how we can render it. You got some idea or not? Okay, now if you know how to create one component, okay, 100 components if you want to create, what's wrong with that? You can create, you're able to create or not? You're able to create or not? Yes or no? Okay, why this console.log messages means I want to see my constructor executed or not. Okay, so I printed a console message, don't think more. Okay, my render method called or not, so that here one new object created or not. So I'm creating every time like this. Okay, I will tell, okay, why Okay, these two kinds of components why they introduce nowadays, why people move to functional components only, why not using class components nowadays people. Okay, nowadays why the people are not using, there a small discussion is there, I will tell that one. Got my point? Okay, then what is my current version of React? What is my current version of React? Current version of React is what? Current version of React. Which React version you are using now? Which React version you are using? Okay, without knowing you are working on this React. In the React development.js, if you observe here, React development.js, the copyrights belongs to Facebook. Who introduced this library? Who introduced this library? Who introduced? Facebook people. Facebook people. What is my React version? Which React version you are using? 18.2. This is the current React version, the latest React version we are using. 18.2, our React version. Okay. These two libraries are given by Facebook people. The two libraries are using like a, okay, the version is like 18.2 only the version. React and React DOM. Got my point? Okay, then. See, I have one small requirement is there. See, observe. This is my browser. Okay, this is also one more browser. Okay, inside the browser, okay, this kind of text is there. Hello, hello, Sachin. This kind of text is there. Inside this browser, okay, okay, inside this browser, okay, like this, okay, some content is there. See the difference. This is, okay, browser one. It's also one browser. This is also one browser. Inside this browser, which content loaded? Inside this browser, which content loaded? If you observe here, inside this browser, hello Sachin loaded. Okay, this is the content like, okay, no change, right? Starting to ending, hello Sachin only. Are you performing any operation in this particular content? No, right? It's a kind of static content or not? Got my point? It's a kind of static content or not? Yes or no? It's a kind of static content or not? Agreed with me? Okay, but come to this particular one. If you observe this one, see this. Okay, if you enter number 20, if I click on check even or odd here, even number is going to print. It is keep on changing the content, right? Once my content loaded inside the browser, after that also my content keep on changing or not? Yes or no? Come on. After that also my content keep on changing or not? Got my point? Okay, here the thing is, before, okay, 16.8 version, okay, the React before 16.8 version, my functional components, okay, my functional components are used for only to prepare the static contents. The functional components are used for what? Only to prepare what? Static contents. That means by using functional components, this kind of functionality we are not able to handle. Got my point? Before 16.8 version, okay, my functional components they introduced for what? Only to prepare the static content. But this kind of functionality we are not able to use it. So that this kind of functionality, if you want to use, then the time you should have to go with what? You should have to go with what? Class components only or not. That means before 16.8, by using class components, you can prepare both static and dynamic contents, but by using functional components, you can prepare only what? Static content or not. That's the reason before 16.8, my functional components are like a mute components, dumb components. Okay, stateless components. Got my point? 16.8. But after 16.8, after 16.8, okay, to work equally with the class components, my React people added one extra features to my functional components that is called as a hooks. Okay, see, after 16.8, okay, to work equally with class components, okay, to my functional components, they added one new feature called as what? Hooks. Whenever they added a new feature called as a hooks after 16.8, now my functional components also turn to be like what? Come on, is ready for what? To prepare the static and dynamic contents both or not. Got my point? Okay, after 16.8, my functional components and my class components are like both are like equal or not? Equal or not? Yes or no? Okay, now you are in which version you are using? You are using which version? You are using which version? 18.2 version. Okay, in my 18.2 version, whatever I can do with the class component, yes, I can do with the functional components or not. Which one is like easy for you to understand syntactically? Okay, which one is easy for you to write the code, everything? Which one is easy to you? Functions, right? Functions simple, right? Function and class. Which one is easy to learn? Functions only or not? If it is like both are giving me the same kind of functionality, okay, same kind of services, which one is easy? That one only I can prefer, right? Yes or no? That the reason. Okay, because of these hooks, introduced only for functional component, hooks only for functional component to equally work with class components. Because of these hooks only, nowadays people are starting to use like functional components instead of class component. Class components not deprecated, still class components are there. But okay, whatever we can do with the class components, yes, I can do with the functional component with the help of hooks, so that I want to prefer like what? Functional components only. Nowadays people are using functional components. That is the reason. Got my point? Agree with me? Come on. Okay, hooks where you want me to use? Hooks only for which components? Hooks only for which components? Hooks only for which components? Only for functional components. If you use the hooks in the class component, it's throwing error. It's throwing error. As part of our class, we are going to discuss like multiple hooks. We are going to use like multiple hooks. These many hooks we are going to discuss. So I will give you one more example for class and functional. After that, we are going to stop the class components. We are going to go with what? Okay, remaining all things we are going to use for, okay, we are going to use, okay, functional components for requirements, other requirements. Got my point? Hello? Okay or not? But in future, if you see the class components, are you able to understand or not? At least tell me. Are you able to understand or not? Okay, for example, okay, you worked on like, okay, my project is running like last 5 years. Okay, we used that time, we started with functional class components or class component. That time it should be a class components only. Okay, now you are working on the same project, then that time you should come to know, right, about the class components at least. Yes or no? Inside the logic is like JavaScript only. That is common for all, either class component or functional component. But basic syntax you should have to understand or not. Now you are able to understand or not? Come on. Okay. Okay, then let me upload all these things. Okay, let me upload all these things. Okay, I asked you to write the notes for each and every program. One person also not written. For each and every component, I asked you to write the notes, right? Hmm? Hmm? Anyone written? If you completed, just share me that note, so that if it is good, I can share to remaining people also. Share, zip it and share it. Okay, now let me upload UI javakit.com downloads React.js. Ours is like JS, right? Ours is like JS. Now, yes. Okay, so uploaded. You can download. Okay, if you have any doubts, you can drop a mail. Okay, while practicing, if you're stuck with something, just with a screenshot with the batch name. With the batch name, you can which batch. Okay, batch name also you can mention in your mail. Okay, so today's our assignment. Okay, go to your javakit.com. Okay, can you read the events concept and come for tomorrow's class? Events concept and JSON. Okay, JSON object and events. These two from JavaScript side. From JS side. Okay, events and JSON. Complete the notes. Each and every program. Okay, below that. Okay, what you written? Just a few lines. Okay, 4 to 5 lines of code you can write here. 4 to 5 lines of code you can write here in the comments section. Got my point. If it is like repeated, also no problem at all. That is specific to that particular component. Okay, this particular program. Okay, the points are repeated, also no problem at all. But that point should relate it to this one. Okay. All are okay. Okay, then thank you guys. Thanks for joining. Bye.